Are you suffering with isolation? Maybe have friends but feel incredibly distant, or they're just really far away from you? Do you desperately wish for the touch of another human being to grace your flesh, organs, nerves, muscles, and bones? Do you feel incredibly worthless and that you're nothing but a burden to the people around you, who at that don't care for you in the first place, just have you around for their own benefit, that they're ready to just drop you at any moment, because at the end of the day, they're just for themselves and they don't care. They never cared. Just a facade. Do you have extreme trust issues and are excruciatingly disassociated and disgusted with the animalistic human race, leaving you to not only hate everyone else in the world, but yourself as well? Because in your mind, what makes you better than all those other assholes out there? Are you extremely dissociated with yourself, thinking that you're this way because of yourself, that you always fuck up everything, that you'd be better off this way since you can't hurt anyone else? Does the painstakingly amount of hate you have for everyone in the world, and mostly 70% of yourself, weigh so heavily on your soul to the point that you start to become a hollow shell, perpetuating nothing but the possibilities of more and more of this everlasting ending cycle, pushing you to the brink of soft insanity, then back to normal, then insanity, then back to sanity again, as a never-ending cycle urinal stomps your brain into the drain, bleeding out into the despair and miserability. The smell of piss overwhelms your nostrils as you go deeper and deeper into this drain, as you slowly fall into the wretched sewer of depression and self-loathing. And at the same time, you know there are good people out there, and you wish for their touch. But you know that you're not good enough for it. You're going to ruin their lives like a plague that creeps under the skin, slowly and taintily, killing the victim from the inside until they have had enough, and another person proves to you that you're a piece of shit. And the sentence sticks with you, making you consummately vomit at yourself over and over again in the sink of your lonely bathroom, of your lonely apartment or home, leaving you completely and utterly hopeless. Are you tired, sad, a little angry at times, bitter, unhappy, feeling useless, worthless, purposeless, insignificant, unimportant, unmemorable, just another number that all your life is just going to continue to count to a statistic, and that's it? No one, absolutely no one, will even notice that you exist unless they just want to use you. Do you feel alone? Then buy a car. No, but seriously, that won't make you feel any more loved or less alone. No matter how much I want to believe that my life would be less alone and hopeless if I were to be just like those drifting street racers with flashy Japanese cars. My plan still stands. I'm getting a job this summer and next summer, and I'm buying that 1998 Civic because fuck public transport in Houston. But I know now that my blind fantasies will not make me happy. It's not so much about the car. I really could care less about material items. It's the feeling of being alive, the adrenaline, the ease, the success of finally, perfectly pulling something off that's impressive to the average individual. I envy those racers. Anyways, don't use material items to fill that void. It will not make you feel any better whatsoever. You will feel even more empty than sitting there in your head, as you'll realize you're just inside a hollow shell of a once happy human being who's wasting their life away on a bunch of little things just to try to run away and not have to feel the pain of loneliness as consciously. I've tried with video games, with being an NYPD captain in a fucking GTA 5 server. It's not real life. Why the fuck was I proud of that? With thoughts of my future with a car, and with more useless bullshit, just because I did not want to face the giant cesspool of my brain. But yeah, blah blah fucking blah. I can talk about my miserable existence all day. It won't do anyone any good. Let's get on to the rest of this video. Loneliness has long been viewed as a universal condition which, at least to a moderate extent, is felt by everyone. Some degree of loneliness is inevitable, as the limitations of human life mean it is impossible for anyone to continually satisfy their need for connection. Long-term isolation can cause various types of negative effects. It can reduce cognitive skills, such as the ability to concentrate, make decisions, problem solve, and even change negative self-beliefs. The inability to connect with others on a deeper, more intimate level. Maybe you have friends and family in your life, but engagement with them is at a very surface level. Your interaction doesn't feel connected in any way that is fulfilling, and this connection seems never-ending. No close or quote-unquote best friends. You have friends, but they are casual friends or acquaintances, and you feel you could find no one who truly gets you. The isolation is overwhelming regardless of where you are and who's around. You can be at a party surrounded by dozens of people, and yet you feel isolated, separate, and disengaged. At work, you may feel alienated or alone. Same on a bus, train, or walking down a busy street. It's as if you're in your own unbreakable bubble. Even when you try to connect or reach out, it's not reciprocated, and you're not seen or heard. Every day you wish you had someone to share ideas, love, activities, thoughts, etc. with. Every day seems some sort of empty and bland. Nothing except for yourself seems real. People and the world around you seem almost like aliens. If you're lonely long enough, almost like a form of depersonalization. You feel the need to use drugs more to mimic the good feelings of socializing, or depend on the drug. Some totally numb the need for social interaction and make interaction seem unnecessary. Antidepressants did, and cigarettes do, help me numb the negative feelings. I still don't feel pleasant though, just not so depressed to the point where my body aches and I can't stop thinking about putting a gun to my head and what the point in me being here is. You are out of touch with the going-ons and gossip among people of your generation or age. So if you do ever talk to someone, you are severely distant from their minds, as you do not care for the low secrets and lies and betrayal behind the bland personalities of the majority of the population of planet Earth, just to keep them going every day. You feel just like the man from Radiohead's album, OK Computer, looking to the sky as if the extraterrestrial are the only ones who would truly understand you. When you need help with something or someone to talk to about issues like depression, troubles, etc., there is no one. Even if there were, their reactions would be, there are people who have it worse than you. You should be more grateful. And then the realization kicks in that you are the problem, that you and you alone have to take this long journey of pain and suffering throughout life alone. Eventually you learn to become comfortably numb at times when you need to be, like at work or school, but sometimes you also need to let it out. When you're lonely, you let it out in forms of major depression and sadness. At least, that's what I do. Or bitterness, which I hate when that happens. You find yourself on sites that put you into contact with others, this being one of them. This prevents you from going insane too fast, but online is no replacement for real social interaction, let's be honest. But better than nothing, am I right? I'm not talking about actual friends you may have online. When I say that, I'm talking about chat rooms and servers and forums and stuff like that, you know. You've been there, I've been there. When in public places, you constantly have the urge to go up to people and make friends with them because you're just that lonely. The desperation burdens you deep into a hole of more and more worthless relationships with people who do not care for you, or the desperation ends it. But you can't help it. You want to pick up the pieces of your heart and place them back inside your chest. So desperate, so far away from the desired. You look back to that desperation, and then you think to yourself, nah, I don't want to do that again, and you walk away. Then you realize you're a boring, lonely fucker, and for some reason don't work up the courage to actually do it. Instead you walk past the person, not saying a word, even though you really wish you introduced yourself, but never do. You have no friends at college, school, or work. You go in by yourself, be there by yourself, and leave by yourself. Your nights at work or school consist of being by yourself. It is then where you cry and realize how fucking depressed you are, and how antidepressants, counseling, good diet, exercises, etc. don't do anything. This crying eventually puts you to sleep. If it doesn't, a sleeping pill is taken, followed by an antidepressant the next morning. Upon waking up, your first thoughts are wishing you weren't alive. Or if that's not possible, then at least wake up being somebody else who isn't so pathetic. Every day you may contemplate suicide and realize if you did somehow work up the balls to finally do it, that no one would really give much of a shit. Not going on social media or whatever for a few months further proves this, as no one has messaged you since you went MIA to see how you are or to hang out. When driving, you wish you had someone to share with your new music and to enjoy long road trips with. When your text messaging menu only has 3 to 4 conversations max at any given time. One is your mom, the other your dad, the other your boss, and the other your psychiatrist. You start to vent on the internet. I feel so lonely. No one replies. No one messages to ask if you're okay. I feel like I'm insignificant. It almost feels like no one cares. Maybe because no one actually does. One day, I get angry. I immediately take out my phone and rant about everything. Just when I'm about to post it, I don't. Why should I? Who would want to listen to me? I don't have anyone to talk to. Even if I did send it, no one would say anything or even try to cheer me up. I feel the crack in my heart widen, and I think of how lonely I am. Unfortunately, I am a high school student in a public space, so I cannot cry. No one must ever find out that I'm lonely. They would try to pry their way into my feelings, hurting me more. Too soon. It's bedtime. I lie awake for 2 more hours. And I think to myself, I have no one to talk to. And I remember, I wouldn't have to think to myself if I had someone to talk to. I feel like no one understands how I feel because they have friends, people they can talk to. Maybe this is what being alone feels like. Express your feelings, not just because you may not want to, but because no one listens. No one cares about how you feel. No one is going to ask you to hang out. As soon as the holidays come, they'll forget about you because they have 100 more friends to replace you that can be of more entertainment than you. Maybe it all adds up because you don't talk to anyone. They think you're boring and fake. In their eyes, you're not their friend anymore. And when it hits you, you can feel your heart crack. If you're not used to it, you'll cry. But you can't tell anyone because you don't have friends. And they don't want to listen. You're not important to them. And why tell your parents that you're lonely? They would nag you about not enjoying it. Even if you died, none of your quote-unquote friends would cry because they didn't have much memories with the real you. But you're used to it as the years pass. Your family is extremely distant because all they see is a failure. And if you're me, your parents emotionally abuse you every day, making you hate yourself even more, making you more alone. Maybe you do talk to people, like co-workers or acquaintances at work or school. These conversations are completely fake and do not have any attachment value With time, I have stopped sharing anything emotional with anybody. Even my interactions have become mostly artificial. I feel jealous when I see a bunch of people talking. I end up thinking why such an asshole of a person has friends and partners when I have none. These are the times when I yearn for emotional attachment. I end up letting out my pains through these videos. Even if somebody tries to break into the invisible wall surrounding me, I ward them off with my social defenses, because all I can know, they could be just like everyone else. And I feel safer being behind this wall alone than to have the possibility of being hurt again. Eventually, I will lose hope in the genuineness of all social interactions. As the hours go by, as the weeks go by, as the months go by, as years go by, the word never lingers and forces itself into the lobes of your brain. Never, never, never will I be loved. Never will I become memorable. Never will I become significant. Never will I matter. Never will I be not alone. Never will I ever live an existence that is not so putrid and disgustingly cruel as the blatant reality that exists. I can run from reality all I want, but it will always catch up. And I will never, ever have something more than this worthless curse of a human mind realizing how fucked and useless my wasted life really is. Never. Is this going to change? Better luck next time. But my friend, loneliness does not last forever. Maybe for me, since I'm a piece of shit, but not for you. Being lonely is normal. It's not as always easy to deal with. And sometimes you have to deal with it for a long time. But things do get better in time. It varies how much time it might take, of course. Sometimes it's hard to tell if you are getting better over time. It's easier to linger on something people, by their nature, remember highlights in their life. Generally, when people are lonely, or remembering fun or happy experiences in our past linked to what we're lonely about. Some great ways to start thinking positively is to make sure that loneliness doesn't keep us from going out and continuing to do things. It doesn't have to be anything big. Little things work just fine. It's hard to say you'll never be lonely ever again, but you can be lonely without it hurting as much too. Remember, you're not the only one. Well, good night. Kocham Cię. Kocham Cię.